What's happening, driver? Guess where I am? I'm sitting at home. We're still waiting for the Kenworth to get fixed. It's in the shop. They're making progress. It's not finished yet, but hopefully we'll be heading back soon to go pick it up. While the truck is down, I wanted to take this opportunity to sort of tell you the story of the truck, because I've had it for, oh, thunder. Wow. I bought this truck back about, God, it's been 10 years now. It's been 10 years I've had this truck. So it was June of 2015 that I bought the truck. But before I get into the truck itself, I kind of need to give a little bit of a backstory on how I ended up with the truck and why I'm in the trucking business, more or less. My name is Jupiter. I drive a truck. I own the truck I drive, and that's why I called my company Jupiter Trucking. Join me, and I'll take you along on some of the different things I end up doing to make a buck with a truck. If you've been following along, I used to be in the hay business. I had my hay truck, and I had my flatbed hay truck, and I had my gooseneck, and I had a couple other trailers. I started getting more and more requests from people to haul things, you know, tractors and cars and miscellaneous items from here to there, not too far. And I kind of just started morphing this business into a hot shop business. For a very short while, my business was called Jupiter Hay and Trucking for a few months there. And then I just kind of decided, screw it, I'm all in. I'm going to go trucking. Trucking is a little more stable, at least, compared to hay. So I was driving all over the West Coast, California, Oregon, Washington, Arizona, Utah, Idaho, places like that, in this F450 low-geared single cab pulling a gooseneck trailer. I could haul whatever you wanted, but it sure didn't go down the road very fast, and it wasn't very comfortable. I was on my way down to Phoenix. I was hauling a load down to Phoenix, and I lost the water pump. And when I was in Phoenix, I bought a new truck. Not a new truck, a new to me truck. It was a 2008 F450, but it was a beautiful truck. Crew cab dually. It had all the creature comforts, and I loved this truck. This was gonna be my deal. Since I had all the other equipment, I was gonna go hot shot trucking with this truck, and I was excited. I loaded up my flatbed on the gooseneck and hauled it back to Fallon, to Nevada up here, and switched everything around, and that was my trucking truck. It lasted a few months, and then I was pulling a load coming up Donner Summit, and all of a sudden the engine started to tick, 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 and nobody could really figure out what it was, except you need to stop driving it. After about 4 months, the truck was dead. Not dead, but dead for trucking use, for heavy duty use. It's still, you know, you can go to the grocery store with it if you wanted to. And I was out of work once again, and I decided to buy a big truck. I shopped. I was looking for a Peterbilt. I was looking for a 379. I went and checked a couple out, and I had 2 or 3 options up in the Washington area. I got on a plane, I flew to Seattle, I rented a car, and I drove to Yakima, and I was going to buy this 379 that was sitting there at this lot, and he had 2 trucks I was real interested in. I asked if I could take the 379 to the dealership down the street and have them go through it, and it came back with a giant red X. Do not buy this truck. And I said, thank you very much. It's been nice talking to you. And I moved on to my second option, which is a truck I really did want too, but it was this truck, this Kenworth. It was in Spokane. So I drove from Yakima up to Spokane, and I found the Kenworth. I was excited. I bought it, got in the truck, and hauled ass. This is a 2002 W900, Kenworth W900. It is a 265-inch wheelbase. It has 2 120-gallon fuel tanks. It has 6-inch straight pipes exhaust. There is no muffler on here. It's got a 13-inch drop visor. Caterpillar C15 6NZ model. It is rated at 550 horse. It runs damn good. I've got a 13-speed transmission back there. While I was putting together the deal for the Kenworth, I found a trailer in Spokane as well. Super cheap. I think I paid $7,000 for it. It was kind of a mess, but it was a 48-foot trailer that I could hook to this truck. So I'd be going back to work as soon as I got home. And I went home with both of them. It worked out super well, super well. I was very excited because that's all the money I had, all the money I could scrape up. This truck, this Kenworth, this W900, was actually purchased from a recycler. The truck had one single owner before. It was leased onto Landstar and it was based out of Houston. This guy bought it brand new. And he was on his way to a shop when he got into an accident. A car hit him on the right side. I never did see pictures of it, but the insurance company decided to total the truck. It had a salvage title on it and all that stuff. The recycler that I bought this truck from, they purchased it at auction for the engine. They wanted the engine and they were gonna, like they said, they were gonna knock it in the head and throw the truck away and pull the heart out of it. But once they got the truck, they decided that it was just too nice of a truck to scrap. So they decided to fix it. It was hit on the right side, on the passenger side, and they had to do some work to the frame rail in front and the hood and all that kind of stuff. Then they just slapped a for sale sign on the window and along comes me. When they bought this truck at auction, it was solid red. It had red fenders, and with the hood damage and the frame damage and stuff in the front, and they rebuilt all that, they painted the fenders silver. So that is how it got to have silver fenders in it. I did take this truck into Speedco one time, right after I bought it, and they typed in the VIN and up popped the previous owner's name. And that's how I found all this information out, is I got a hold of him, I looked him up, I found his phone number, and I called him, and he answered the phone, and I told him who I was, and he's like, I wondered if I'd ever get a call from someone like you that bought this truck. So I got a little bit of history on the truck, the engine, what work he'd done to it. He'd done some suspension work and put a new head on it at one point, and on and on and on, stuff like that, the rear ends. So I had just a smidgen of history on this truck, which ended up really not making any difference at all. It has short little stacks on it. It has no peeling paint, which is kind of weird to look at when I go back and look at the pictures. I guess all of that peeling paint has happened since I bought it. Although I have figured out that it is not the factory color. The factory color was a candy apple red. I found it on the inside of the glove box. And you can tell by some of the trim around the doors and windows and stuff that it was painted before I bought it. And it's not the factory color. So I'm going to say that paint job was a little inferior, even though I didn't probably take care of it as good as I could have. And now the clear coat's peeling off. And that's why it looks like it does. I bought it in June of 2015. I got it home. I got it registered. I got it insured. I jumped through all the hoops that I needed to jump through. And right after 4th of July, July 6th, 2015, I held my first load with it. It was a load going out to Colorado and Wyoming. And I went out there and it rained, and I immediately started down this path of truck ownership. I blew an air conditioning line, just like broke in half. And then the window crank broke. So I couldn't roll my window up. And I'm driving around in the rain with the window down, no AC, and just first trip of this truck, I made it to the dealership in Denver. I bought the window regulator, and I had a screwdriver or two with me, and I changed it out on the curb of their dealership on my first trip. It's getting kind of windy out here. I had to go get the microphone so you can hear me. Around November, I started to have some signs of problems. I was coming home from Utah on a load, coming down a hill outside of Wells, Nevada, when all of a sudden, poof, the windshield got sprayed with steam and coolant. I didn't know what was going on. I stopped at the truck stop and I bought a new radiator cap just to see if that might be the problem, but it wasn't. I made it to Elko. I made a few phone calls, and I was able to get the truck into the Kenworth dealership in Elko the next morning. They started looking into it, and I've got a blown head gasket. So I'm down, and I'm down big time. And I've had the truck for 4 months, and I've put 35,000 miles on it. Keep in mind, I still had this dually at home too. So I was pretty strapped. I have nothing I can do except rebuild the motor. Nothing I can do, but I couldn't pay for it. I filled out as many credit applications as I could, and lo and behold, Caterpillar came through with a $25,000 line of credit. And that is what saved me. We were able to move ahead with the engine rebuild. The truck stayed in Elko, and I had it towed from the Kenworth dealership to the Cat dealership, and Cat rebuilt the motor rather than Kenworth. That's what I wanted. And plus Cat footed me the money, so it went to Cat. My line of credit was $25,000. The repair bill came to $24,998. I don't know if that was planned, but it sure worked out that way. So I got the truck back in December of 2015, and I'm back on the road. While the truck was down, I ordered signage for the truck. So on my first load back, I had new signs on the doors, I had a new engine, a new radiator, new charge air cooler, and I was ready to rock and roll. And away we go. January of 2016, I was involved in an accident. It wasn't my fault. Again, I was in Sacramento. It was raining. The weather was very poor. And some lady next to me did some sort of 90-degree turn right in the middle of the freeway and hit me right at the driver's doorstep, right underneath the door. Tore her car all up, tore my step off. I had to climb out the passenger side or jump down and just kind of wiped all that out. So that was something else that I had to work on. I ended up swapping, I straightened it out as best I could, and then I put the passenger side step on the driver's side and just swapped them. And so the passenger side is a little bit wonky. You'd never notice it unless I showed it to you. But at least the driver's side looks straight. May, I'm up in Oregon. May of 2016, I'm up in Oregon. I'm loaded. I'm coming back to Reno, Nevada. I'm getting on the freeway, and all of a sudden, the gears and the transmission start sounding like you're running a stick down a picket fence. But it was only 1 or 2 gears. But I was able to get it home by skipping those gears. You'd go from 4th to 6th to 8th. But when this transmission went out, and I was talking with the guy at the shop, trying to convince him that, hey, you know, since we're pulling this one out, why don't we just put an 18-speed in? And he was like, why? And I said, because it's cool. And he said, it's stupid. And it was more expensive, and I was in no position to argue. So I just said, fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with a 13-speed. That truck's still got a 13-speed in it. And it works great. It really does work great. So now I have a new engine, and I have a new transmission, a new radiator, and let's go to work. We're getting there. We're getting there. But 2017, coming into 2017, we're trucking right along. June, the truck had a really bad squeak to it. Whenever I would go over a set of railroad tracks or off-road a little bit, and the truck would go like this, it would just really, really bad. And I chased this squeak for a very long time. On top of the transmission, there is what they call a buggy spring, kind of like that bolts to the transmission on the top and rests on the inside of the frame rail on either side. And there's supposed to be a plastic disc to put between the spring and the frame so it's not metal on metal. Well, that little plastic disc was gone. I got a bottle jack. I'm jacking up the transmission, trying to get enough space off of that buggy spring to where I can put a piece of mud flap in there. And I should have put a 2x4 on top of the bottle jack, but I didn't. And I got it up just enough. I was just to where I had enough room, and boom, the jack went through the bottom of the transmission. In fact, I still have the piece. It's been 10 years now. That was a giant, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit moment. I was down. I was done. but my mechanic was able to get on it pretty quickly. I still have this black dually that's just been sitting at home. My wife drove it to work a couple times for a while, and I had to tow the Kenworth to the shop with the dually that I'm still paying for a very expensive fix that I had to pay for. These were some tough times. The learning curve when you do nothing but learn the hard way is a hard curve. And that's just kind of how I operate. Back into 2018, mid-2018, I had to replace the front differential on the truck. That went out in August. I had to deliver to this geothermal mine plant way out in the middle of nowhere, like 40, 50 miles of very rough road. And by the time I got back to the pavement, one of my stacks on the passenger side was leaning back like this, broken. Apparently it had been rotting out where the two sleeves come together, had been rotting out, and it just broke and leaned back. I had to take the stack off. I couldn't, no matter what, it wouldn't stand back up. So I just take it off, threw it on the ground, and drove through California, just missing that top stack. I was tall on this side and short on this side. Looked kind of dumb. And that is when I put the stacks on it that I have now. I had purchased these from a friend who had a 389 that was totaled, and he pulled the stacks off and I bought them. So I had them sitting in the garage ready to go, and all of a sudden, guess what I'm doing this weekend? And I pulled off the old stacks, I pulled off the shrouds, and I put on the straight pipes. And I think it looks a lot better. Personally, I think it looks a lot better. I like it. Pretty happy with it. We're rolling along. 2018's done. We're into 2019. Things are starting to run smoothly. It was July of 2019. I'm coming up to the salt flats of Utah. I'm headed west. I'm cruising right along, got the radio on, and all of a sudden, everything just went berserk in the truck. All the buzzers and beepers and everything. Beep, beep, stop, stop, da, da, da. And it turns out that I had blown a heater hose that comes off the block and goes back to the sleeper, just burst. Psh, and I lost all my coolant. Luckily, I was right at an exit to where I could get to a little gas station that was right there at this exit. I got it parked under a tree in the shade. They had a hose, I had a bucket, a jug. I just started fixing stuff. I fixed the leak, spliced past it, got that straightened up. And I'll admit, this is another spot where I did something kind of panicky and stupid. In my rush, panic, to cool down the truck, I poured water on the head, and the head cracked. I didn't realize it then, but that's what happened. It was yeah. So I started seeing signs of that, and it wasn't but a few weeks later that we had to replace the head. And thankfully, pretty much the rest of 2019 is quiet. So now I've done just about everything to this truck that you can think of, which means it's time to start doing things over again that you've already fixed. I'm in Texas hauling a load back to Utah, and things started acting a little funny, making a little weird noises, little skipping a tooth in a gear kind of noises. I didn't know what was going on, but it sounded horrible, and I figured it was the transmission. I got it home, we put it in the shop. My mechanic pulled the inspection plate off the transmission, and he found some problems in there. So, yep, we pulled the transmission out, we sent it into a shop, they rebuilt it. I'm picking it up, and I was kind of telling them what's going on, and they're like, that wouldn't make what we fixed didn't make that noise. I mean, there was something wrong with the transmission, but it wasn't the problem I was having. So it turns out it was the power divider.
There's two gears that come together that mesh each other face to face like this. There's nothing there.
So it was a major deal. It was December of 2020 when I modified my fifth wheel, I wanted more length. I wanted to be able to slide the fifth wheel a little farther back. The fifth wheel used to end right here. And then a few years ago, I bought a second slider plate, and a friend of mine helped me extended the fifth wheel slider so it'll run a long ways back and forth. Turned out to be a little unnecessary. I probably, in hindsight, could have just taken the one that was on there and moved it back. I needed more room between the front of the trailer and the back of the cab. I almost never use that front plate. 2021 now, and things are actually pretty quiet. I did, have some alternator issues, nothing too major, thankfully, for 2021. 2022, we had to do an air compressor. 2022 is when I put the cabinet headache rack on there. I love that. That's when I lost most of my room from the fifth wheel slider extension. I had a small step box on the driver's side, and I had no step box on the passenger side. I had two larger step boxes that I acquired and put in there. I had to move the tanks forward a couple, 3 inches, adjust my fenders, and they just slid right in there and bolted up, and they work. So I've got 2 step boxes now that are handy for storage and for climbing up and down off of the truck. And I put the grab bars on the headache rack so I can pull myself up and get in and out of there. And it's a nice setup. I'm happy with that. I wish I had a little more room, but I'm very happy with that. At the end of 2022, I replaced the carrier bearing. I did all the U-joints. I replaced a couple yokes in the drive line. I was trying to chase a vibration that I just couldn't catch, and I ended up having to replace just about the entire drive line from the back of the transmission to the front of the differential. All right, well, the wind just came along and knocked over everything I had set up here, so moving along. We're moving on to 23 when the power divider failed again. I really don't have any idea. There was nothing tragic or traumatic that happened. It just started clunking and clanging, and we took it out and rebuilt the power divider again. So that's twice now. The rest of 2023 went by without much major incident as far as the truck goes. But in February of 24, I started losing coolant again. Started blowing out coolant out the overflow tube of the radiator. I went down every possible avenue of research trying to find what the problem could be. Because I really didn't think it was a head gasket. I replaced the air compressor, didn't solve the problem. A couple months of farting around, and finally just came to the realization after doing a block test and looking for exhaust gases in the coolant, I lost the head. Not the head, the head gasket. We pulled the head off. I made arrangements. I took it to a shop in Idaho this time, up in Meridian, Idaho, the Caterpillar dealer there. And a mechanic guy that had helped me before, and I took it up to him, and we pulled the head off, and he goes, "Yep, you've got a bad head gasket." At this point, there were 750,000 miles on the rebuild that I had done in 2015. So we decided rather than chance it and just put a Band-Aid on it, only to have to pull it all apart in another year or two, I just went ahead with a complete overhaul again for the second time in March of 2024. And that's the engine I'm still working on right now. The overhaul's been great. We haven't had any issues with it. When I did the overhaul, I had it tuned, retuned up to 550 horse. So it's a 550 horse, 6NZ cat in there right now, and the thing runs like a monster. It just eats up these hills out here. It's not, it's not a flatland truck, it's not a fast truck. It's geared kind of low. I like to just cruise at about 70 miles an hour, but you hit these hills and we just go. You can outpull almost anybody on these hills. We had one other issue in December of last year. I had to replace the radiator. Oh boy. Radiator lasted 9 years, almost to the day probably. And since then, it has been quiet. It has been so quiet that I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop. Guess what happened next? The frame broke. Holy shit. The frame is broken. the story that everybody's kind of familiar with now, because that just happened like 2 weeks ago. So with a broken frame, the truck's in the shop right now, and it has been a good truck for me. It has been a good truck for me, but I have rebuilt that truck almost from bumper to bumper. I've done so much to the truck, from the rear ends, to the drive lines, to the U-joints, to the transmissions, to the power dividers, to the engines, to the flywheels, to the clutches, to the radiators, to the fan hubs, fuel lines, fuel system, coolant system, everything. And it's like a new truck. Fires right up, runs great. Kind of wish it had power windows sometimes, but it's all right. I don't have any DEF and I don't have any DPF filters, so we're doing pretty good with that. That's the story of this Kenworth. That's how long I've had it. Those are some of the major things I've done to it. I've been meaning to tell this story for a while. I really didn't want to have this reason to tell the story, but here we are. So that's it. I hope to have the truck back next week, the end of this week, beginning of next week. Don't really know yet. We're working on it, and we're gonna hit the road running. That's all we got to do. With that said, I have some merchandise to sell. I'm in fundraising mode now. I need everybody watching to buy a hat. That would be great. We're gonna have hoodies up. We're gonna have sweatshirts and hats and more stuff eventually. We're gonna have this thing up and running by the end of the week. And by the time this video comes out, this store is gonna be operational. I'm gonna even link it to YouTube so you can just see the stuff that's available, hopefully right under the video or however that works. The other thing that I am going to do, if somebody feels like you would like to support this channel, like putting on a play on the street with my hat sitting on the sidewalk, anybody who walks by wants to throw a quarter in it, every little bit is appreciated. And thank you. This has been, it's not gonna be a crippling expense. The worst part of it, believe it or not, is going to be the work that I missed out on. I missed out on some really good work. I had an 80-foot long load going to Montana that was going to pay a lot of money that I had to give back. I had to turn down. An oversized load of scales that I had to turn down. Just work, backhauls that I had to cancel, expenses of getting the truck towed to Idaho, expenses of getting the truck fixed. All in all, it's gonna be a bit of a nut. Without getting into specifics, it's gonna be a little expensive. So if you feel like it, if you feel a little generous, thank you guys. I hope you have a good weekend. I hope you enjoyed this story. It's been, like I said, overdue, and we'll be back and running soon. Take care.
In the meantime, keep the bugs off your glass and the bears off your ass. Catch you on the flip-flop.